should not feel happy because there is nothing to happy about.
Yeah, it's quite pathetic the way the country is going.
We distinguish each story accurately with analysis.
It's Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
This is the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Itimi Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. This is Hard Facts, and I'm Maryann Okon. And on the big Hard Facts today, we're talking electoral reforms. Yes, 2023 dealt a tough blow on Nigerians. And until today, many people are yet to, come out of that. I don't know what to call it, days. Anyway, good evening, Lagos. Good evening, Nigeria. Welcome to Hard Facts. Today, we're tackling one of the most pressing issues shaping our nation's democracy, electoral reforms. And, of course, we're looking at how we can bridge the voter apathy gap. Now, as we look ahead to 2027, many Nigerians are asking, can we trust the system? With us today is a legal practitioner and a public affairs commentator. I will introduce him in a bit. With me, he will be unpacking the role of INEC, the judiciary, the government, even you, the voter, in fixing the system that many believe is broken. My guest is Doueyi Dominic Fiderikumo. He is a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst, and I have been on his case for weeks to be on the show. Finally, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the show. Good evening.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, too.
Lovely. The question that everyone is asking is, which is the best time for us to begin to lay the foundation, if there be any, for a better electoral process before 2027? Is it time to change the rules or change the players? From a legal perspective, governance, from a legal perspective and a governance perspective, what structural reforms are necessary within INEC to ensure their independence and accountability? Because the biggest problem, if you ask the average person after the 2023 election, was INEC. Everybody kept harping on the fact that INEC didn't do its job. INEC promised us. INEC didn't keep their promise. INEC said we should go to court. INEC, if INEC were to be one person, probably would have lost its tongue because of the many times that Nigerians called INEC. So, Barrister, what do you think INEC needs to do now in preparation for 2027? Let's start from there.
Okay, this is not actually a straight, it's a question that you can't get a straight answer. Because, election itself is a process. It's a process. I teach election law. And one of the first things I tell my students is that election is not an event. It's not what specifically with respect to the day for casting of votes. It's a process. Starts with registration of voters, goes to the point where there is a publication of notice of election. Candidates are called and the rest, the method of voting. So it's a process. So the first thing we have to recognize is not just solely the human factor. Mm-hmm. Because at the very end of the day, people who are in INEC are Nigerians. And the corporate entity called INEC, they by law, they have a period of 5 years to be there. Mm-hmm. And there are strict constitutional provisions for their removal. And it has been the tradition to allow them to exhaust their time. Mahmoud's tenure is actually winding up. Some other person is going to come. But the big question is, what is actually the legal framework? What are the materials he's going to work with? Because it is not just merely enough at the very end of the day, to say INEC has not actually done well. But what are the rules that INEC met? And at the end of the day, there are two principal legislation involved, the Constitution and the Electoral Act. But the Electoral Act itself, it's more like the vehicle itself, the legal vehicle for conducting of election.
Okay.
That's where the issue is. So I'll give a small example. even where, for example, during the 2023 elections, there were legitimate claims, valid claims about the fact that results were not actually transmitted to IREV, as promised by the Electoral Commission.
Mm-hmm.
There is still a difficult situation involved. That if you, for example, now proceeded to court, the court is expected to look at the entire thing and to say, okay, let's assume, because INEC is made up of human beings, they are not flawless. So let's assume that one aspect has a problem. Now, what is the effect of that failure, the effect of that issue on the entire electoral process? That's why the law talks about substantial compliance, and that somebody who actually says INEC has not complied with the rules of the election has a duty not only to plead that non-compliance, but also show how that non-compliance itself affected the outcome of the results. That is the law. INEC cannot do anything about that because it is firmly within the provisions of the Electoral Act. That should be about Section 135. Mm-hmm. But this is the problem. The problem is not so much of, especially with respect to post-election litigations. The problem is with respect to the fact that the burden of proving the propriety or the fact the election results are actually correct, are not correct. INEC enjoys that burden of presumption. An electoral commission, which also a public entity, which ought to be the one to say, okay, let me explain to you very I did everything quickly. And this results is through the process of, it's a product of a credible process, is favored by the law, because there's a presumption that the results announced by the Electoral Commission are correct. That presumption gets good, you go to puts a big hurdle on the man who is complaining. I hope you appreciate that point.
So the burden of proof, the burden of proof is on the complainant. That's what you're saying, because the law has somewhat
on the complainant, on the petitioner.
Yes, on the petitioner, being that the law has taken that burden off of INEC, and like Caesar's wife, INEC is above reproach. Yeah.
In a sense, so you, an outsider, is vested with the tough responsibility of demonstrating that what INEC has done is not consistent with law. Mm-hmm. But it ought to be the other way around, because INEC is a public entity. INEC is responsible to Nigerians. INEC has a duty to explain either complaints, especially complaints of the election. That is not, those widespread complaints are actually consistent with reality. But the point is that from the very beginning of the judicial process, you have a problem. So one would have actually thought that, in view of the kind of interest we had during the 2023 elections, which were, in my own opinion, properly and judicially affirmed, but there were actually complaints about some of the undertakings made by INEC we could not keep. We would have started as early as 2023. So start looking at the loopholes. One would have been, for example, an amendment of Evidence Act. The Evidence Act, specifically Section 168. 168 is 169, that creates what we call the presumption of regularity. The presumption that INEC results are correct. Once they announce it, that presumption itself is not a product of the Electoral Act, but a product of the Evidence Act, specifically 168 subsection 1. That what INEC has done is regular, is proper. So this ought to be the first thing, and then the burden will be cast upon INEC. Before it can now shift over to the person complaining.
Okay. Before we move on to the next question, I want to stay on this a little bit, and your connection is a little poor, so you're breaking and we're missing some words. unfortunately. But then, if we're clear here, you're asking that, and this is one of the things that I've continuously advocated for, that we don't have to wait till it's election or campaign season before we begin to ask that electoral reforms begin to take place. It's a process, as you have said.
That's the idea.
But then you're saying that there should be an amendment, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of an average politician who is a member of the House of Assembly in the state, at the federal level, and at the local government level. Why would I want to change or upgrade something from a thing that I think I'm benefiting from? Because I might rig an election and then tell INEC to announce it, and the announcement is in my favor because of the Evidence Act. Why would I want to change that to benefit the guy who wants a smooth sailing electoral system? Why would I want to do that?
Okay, I think we have actually seen some kind of changes. We've seen some kind of changes, and even though it may not have actually achieved the desired result, but we have seen some kind of movements. For example, you notice that prior to this point in time, accreditation of voters used to be purely manual. Mm-hmm. Before they brought in the card readers that didn't work, and then as a result of that development, they moved the bids, because INEC recognized that one of the problems of the election we actually had on that 1999, 2003, 2007, 2007, before the 2015, before the 2011, 15 election, INEC recognized that the problem was one of accreditation. Mm-hmm. Because, under the law, you can't actually have a valid vote without a valid accreditation.
Yeah.
So they came up with a system. That one didn't work. Beavers has moved it forward, in a sense. So even though they may not actually want it, it is very possible to galvanize the public to get them to do something about it. That is very crucial. That is very, very, very crucial. Because until you have a situation where people can actually be sure that the votes that are actually announced, they're a product of a concrete and valid accreditation.
I'm so sorry, Barrister. Your internet is, your connection is very bad. We cannot hear anything that you're saying again. So we're going to try to see if we can allow you to leave the meeting and rejoin us, because we have lost your connection, and it's telling us that your network bandwidth is low. Because this conversation is very important and we must hear everything that you have to say, let's see if you can log off and log back in and see if the connection will be clearer. If you can move your device, your internet device, from where it is now and see if there's a change of sorts. We'll take a quick break, Lagos. If you're just joining us, the program is Hard Facts. We're talking about electoral reforms that can help save our electoral process before 2027. If there is anything that can be done, can it be done now, or do we have to start working on it for maybe 2030? My guest is a lawyer and, of course, a public affairs analyst. We'll be right back after this break.
Credible journalism, bridging the gap between people and those in authority. With Hard Facts, you are sure to get only the facts.
Tune in to Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
There's a reason why over 1 million people tune into Hard Facts every day. We discuss in-depth stories with sources behind the facts.
The Lagos State High Court has convicted, suspended the Chicago certificate story. It's never going away, is it? Show with stories for the day.
You hear diverse voices and opinions.
And she was meeting her friend with her husband, knowing that. You should not feel happy because there is nothing to happy about.
Yeah, it's quite pathetic the way the country is going.
We distinguish each story accurately with analysis.
It's Hard Facts with Maryann Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, we're back, and the great barrister is back. His connection is better. I want to quickly, I have just 1 minute before we go on a very quick break and come back, an ad break. There have been these tiny faces of constitutional amendments that's been going on the floor of the National Assembly. Many people don't even know about it. A few people, maybe civil societies, are interested, but the average Nigerian doesn't know about it. And they're calling radio stations every day and complaining about the fact that, the electoral system is damaged. What must we do? Why is it that the National Assembly is making these amendments without the kind of public hearing or public information that should be out there? I'm so sorry. While you think about that answer, let's go on a very quick break. When we come back, we'll let you answer that question. Stay with us. It's still Hard Facts.
This is Hard Facts on Niger Info 99.3 FM. My name is Shegwa Rinze. Hard Facts with Maryann Okon. We'll be right back. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We'll be right back.
Hey there, moms and dads. Did you know that some children are picky eaters and also do not get enough fruits and vegetables from their diet? Well Kid Baby and Infant Syrup is a food supplement from Vitabiotics that contains 14 vitamins and minerals, including vitamin C and zinc, as well as flaxseed oil, which supports brain development and all-round health. Well Kid Baby and Infant Tasty Syrup is for children 3 months to 5 years of age. Give your young ones a good start with Well Kid Baby and Infant from Vitabiotics UK. Available in pharmacies near you.
Ever since Grandpa's swag retired, he's gotten quite active. You might find him making jollof rice for the family, or doing 50 push-ups a day, or bursting some moves on TikTok, or going shopping with his favorite grandson. He's also experimenting new things like pairing Ankara trousers with a white shirt and a cool pair of sunglasses.
Oh shit, keep that, Grandpa's swag.
We believe that the fun begins at retirement. That's why Hares Life has designed the Hares Annuity Plan, a pension plan that pays you a monthly income for as long as you live. This way, you can enjoy retirement and experience life all over again. For this and other plans, visit www.haresinsuranceGroup.com. That is HEIRS, or call 0700 434 7754 to get started.
This Eid, now we'll go enjoy.
Now people will waka enter Grand Square, of course.
From June 2nd, go to 7 Grand Square, they run better discounts. We go sweet to your belly. Now the Grand Eid Bonanza, discounts full ground like Suya for Ilea.
Special discounts on top brands for foodstuff, electronics, household, and many more. Better enjoyment they involved though.
Now celebration season with sweet savings and up to 60% off on select items.
So make you carry the whole squad. Go Grand Square for Abuja, Ikeja, VI, and Kano.
Grand Square Eid Bonanza. Ilea just got better.
Discounts everywhere. Come shop with no wahala.
From June 2nd to the 7th, you know where to be.
It's Grand Square. Come and shop with glee.
Is that Alfie playing football in the rain?
It's Toby Chio.
My goodness. When did he grow up? That's it with kids, so.
It's amazing how your child grows up before your eyes. Enable their thriving development with the new NanKid 4 with HMOs to support your child's development, probiotics, and high-quality proteins to support age-appropriate growth. NanKid 4. Nourish your child's potential.
It is an incontrovertible fact that the future of power is solar. It is becoming increasingly clear that solar is the way to go if reliable, clean, and uninterrupted power is our goal. Our homes need power. Our offices need power. Our public buildings need power. Our lives and activities need power. And of course, I mean reliable power. Now, at the Solar World Electric Technology Limited, we have cut our teeth as professionals in the business of solar and renewable energy, ranging from inverters, lithium-ion batteries, solar panels, solar water heating systems, solar street lights, etc. You can visit our regional head office at the 26 Ima Abimbola Cole off Fola Oshibo, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos, or our website on www.solarworldelectric.com, or you can call us on 0906 331 5492. Solar World Electric Technology Limited. We are redefining the limits.
What can your bank do for you?
Meet Jane, 25 years old. She's been having troubles acquiring a loan from her bank.
This is not okay at all. I've been on this queue forever, and you're saying I should fill another form. What's going on?
What can your bank do for you?
Meet Frank, 27 years old, held up in traffic and making fruitless transactions.
Mama, I have sent the airtime, even the electricity charges. I don't know why it's so difficult making this payment.
Introducing Safri, a lifestyle digital bank that's designed just for you. With one click, you can make easy and fast payment transactions, pay bills, and even acquire easy loans. Hurry and download the Safri app on your Play Store. Visit safrisafri.com for more information. Safri, borderless banking.
For 3 great seasons, the fans have fought with passion and fire. Their best they brought. The banter was bold, the debates were tight. Each word a weapon, each match a fight. But now it's bigger, the stakes much higher. The battle returns, and it's full of fire. Fan Battle 4 with Femi and the gang on 99.3 Nigeria Info. The stage is bang. In partnership with Sports Salon, we raise the game with glory, honor, and a shot at fame. Think you've got what it takes to score? Step right up. It's time for more.
Fan Battle 4 starts Tuesday, June 3rd through July from 7 p.m. weekdays on Nigeria Info.
Fan Battle 4. Let the battle begin.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
Your number one station for talk. Let's talk. Let's talk.
It's still 99.3 Nigeria Info. Welcome back from that break. I still have Doueyi Fiderikumo. He is a lawyer and, of course, a public affairs commentator. In fact, he's almost a prof. He's just that he doesn't like me calling him prof. He teaches what we're discussing today in the studio, electoral reforms, in case you are wondering. And before we went on that break, I was asking you about the question of the constitutional amendments that are happening now and why Nigerians are not being carried along as we should. That if you ask the average Nigerian today on the street or your students if they know about the constitutional amendment that's happening on the floor of the National Assembly, how many of them would say they do? So why is it not as open and as a come one come all situation that it should be? Because the things that we're having a conversation about now should be some of the things that we should be pushing for as part of the constitutional amendments, especially in the part of electoral laws.
Yes, I agree with you entirely. I think the person who is in the best position to answer that would be Akpabio and his and what's the other guy in the House of Reps. So, well, that's not it. So I think he'll be in the best position to actually answer why Nigerians are not really aware. But you see, one thing I would always say, the constitutional amendment process has always been, rather regrettably, a secret. But there is a procedure stipulated in the Constitution. It will start first from the National Assembly before it actually gets to the states. I'm not sure they've gotten to that level yet. Because every constitutional amendment process has to be supported by a certain majority of the states. So they would have to resolve theirs first. And one would actually expect at the level of the National Assembly, they should have informed Nigerians about it, because the Constitution is the basic law of the land. It's so fundamental that from the outset, from the very, very, very beginning, there ought to be a dedicated effort on the part of the National Assembly to educate Nigerians. There is a bill to alter the Constitution. This is the subject. If, for example, they have to take out like media campaigns. 1 hour they get people who have initiated, sponsored those bills aimed at altering the constitution to come out and say this is what they are seeking to do. They will arouse interest when they get to the level of the states.
Yes.
Because I know usually what they do is that when they get to the state will announce at their level and invite stakeholders. In terms of the House of Assembly, invite stakeholders. But it is fundamentally important because the reason why is that there is a rather there is an amendment that was done during the last alteration. Has to do with Obiokpo, the name, where I live. Most people don't even know that it has changed.
Has it?
Yes, the local government area. I'm going to read it to you. The name has changed. There is a slight change, a marginal change from Obia to Obio.
So there's no A anymore. It's now Obio.
Let me just to make assurance doubly sure. Those are one of the amendments of the fifth alteration to the Constitution, because you know the names of local government areas are stipulated in the Constitution. So there was a move, and most people are not even aware of it in the very first place. That is to get back to your point. To get back to your point. So Nigerians just go to the book stands and they see amendments touching on their lives. In fact, there is one that says the first schedule to the Principal Act is altered in Part 1 by substituting for the words Afikpo not, Afikpo not, and Afikpo South. In paragraph 2, line 1, the words Afikpo and Eda, E-double-D-A. So you have series of them like that under the Constitution. So it boils back to what the National Assembly actually has done, because the amendment of the Constitution is even far much more important than the budget, because this is the basic law of the land. It's the basic law of the land. Yes, so it used to be Obiakpo, OBIA / AKPOR to now OBIO AKPOR, and that's the local government I am, Port Harcourt.
Yes. And
most people are not aware. They still say Obiakpo.
I lived in Obiakpo, so I call it Obiakpo.
You see it?
I call it Obiakpo. So,
but the name has changed.
So why? You see, that's why I asked that question, that we're pushing for amendments, but then there seems to be these amendments right under our noses, but then we're not carried along. These bills go through first, second reading, and then before we know it, it's law. And then half the time, we're not part of the process. How are we going to get to the point where we're having proper electoral reforms and of course amendments in the electoral law, the Electoral Act, I beg your pardon, if we the people are not carried along? Because I'm guessing that whatever we want changed in the Constitution should be reflective of what the people need, not exactly what the politicians or the representatives on the floor actually need. How do we do that? Because everything we have been discussing still revolves around our representatives, our senators. How do we get them to carry us along? Because most importantly, it is us, the people, that are being represented.
That's a very difficult one, honestly speaking. How do we get the National Assembly to be so open to the point where the public is actually aware? I'm not sure. Did they actually have a dedicated, in the form of C-SPAN, where you go and then you see virtually everything they do live?
Well, there's some live. I don't know if the C-SPAN like you have.
I'm not talking about those snippets. I'm talking about the situation where they have a dedicated, TV station.
I don't think so.
People watch the activities, excepting those ones they actually hold for the purposes of security, out of the camera. You can actually see those debates live.
I'm hoping that there might be a YouTube. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that there might be a YouTube channel.
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not aware either, but I know that once in a while they have those sittings where it's live broadcast on television, but I'm not sure.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have a dedicated channel like the Congress has C-SPAN. I don't think that they do.
That's one of the things I think they should actually do, not just YouTube, especially in the light of the very high cost of data these days. So people can sit back and watch, see what they're actually doing. So that would be a way to get some of these things actually available. And another thing, again, some of these amendments they do too, they really don't actually have any. Some of them are like formal amendments, like this one, from OBR to OBO. Territorial is still the same. The structure has not actually changed. But look at the length of time and the public funds that were actually committed in terms of billions for this process. And there are so many of them. So those amendments, at the end of the day, to what extent are they really valuable to Nigerians? In the last constitutional amendments, they now decided they were going to make prisons both a state and a federal issue. Concurrent. State and federal issue concurrent. That to some extent you say actually is fundamental because of the fact that the federal government is actually so much burdened with the responsibility of sustaining these prisons. And after all, some of these convictions are also from the states. So the body should actually be shared. That is understandable. But we are talking about amendments that are valuable, amendments that will take us to the next level, not Buhari's next level, to the next level, to the next level. The kind of amendments that will advance lives, that will have impact on the lives of the people. For example, voting is so fundamental. For example, independent candidacy is so fundamental. They need to actually have it entrenched in the Constitution and to break the hegemony of political parties that have become literally cult-like. If you don't actually have anybody within the conduct of the party to support your political aspirations, you can't contest election. But what is important is that everybody should actually have a right to go out there, if you are qualified in terms of age, in terms of education, to go out there and ask the people for their mandates. Break down this issue of defection because it's of no fundamental importance in the first place.
I want to quickly...
The distinction between APC and PDP is almost like... I was going to say... I wanted to say it is almost like saying, there is no distinction. It's like 6.5 of a dozen. No ideological difference.
All right.
So what is actually the point?
I want us to quickly, because of time, I want us to quickly move to the issue of vote buying and election manipulation. And I also want to lump in that voter apathy. There's a lot of vote buying. Many would blame it on the economics of the country, the fact that people are so poor, people have been mentally broken, that a little amount of money to buy food and eat and die at that moment is okay to sell their souls. Many people would say, yes, it's because the system is broken and people are sure that their votes don't count. Hence, they sell their votes. But then if we talk about that, we can't also talk about vote buying without talking about election manipulation, which leads to voter apathy. The percentage of people who come out to vote continuously drops. I mean, 2023 was a bit of a difference, because people seem to have been sick and tired and they came out. But even at that, there was still some level of voter suppression. Would we in this lifetime be able to surmount these hurdles that I have listed as a country? Because it looks like, for example, in 2025, the government is already campaigning. There are billboards in Abuja. A sitting senator wears a campaign regalia into the sitting of the Senate, and all of these things. And someone sits somewhere and already says the president has won the elections, meaning again to the average voter that your vote does not count. How do you appeal to the sensibility of the average Nigerian voter to want to go out and vote?
Okay, there's the first point I want to make. People actually have a right of free speech. Anybody can say it, and it's well within the person's right of freedom of expression to say Tinubu has won already. But it doesn't stop you from going out to vote. If you actually have a contrary view, you mobilize to ensure that doesn't actually happen. People have a right. But you accord that to them. You see, vote buying is actually a crime, really under the Electoral Act. But you see, these are some of the problems we have. Some of these things are not really provable. They're not provable. Because it is an issue of conscience. How do you really establish in practical form that somebody collected money and was swayed to vote from the person, swayed not to vote the person he wanted to vote, and then to vote for the person that gave him money? How do you establish that? Are you in the polling the polling booth? How do you establish that? But there are still Nigerians who collect money and don't actually do it. So it becomes an issue of how you see yourself. No legislation can actually change that. A man who does not understand that voting is an issue of conscience and not one of commerce, there is no law upon the face of it that would actually change it. So that's why it's a dead law in our statutes. It's a dead law. In fact, you go and plead vote buying. How many persons are you actually going to call? And to what extent to upset an election? You can't even find those who will give what you have given money, that they did that for that particular purpose. So Nigerians are the problems, and this is not a question of politicians. But I actually hold the view that let us be extremely realistic. If a man decides to make commerce out of his right to vote, that is his right. Why bother criminalizing it? Are you with me? That is the man's right. If he says, and I wouldn't concede to that because I see an issue of voting as an issue of conscience. But I'm just asking the simple question. If a man decides to say, I want to put a monetary tag on this particular right, why would anybody bother? Is government going to give him a ticket to salvation? Government will give him natural things, food, water, money, and the rest.
Okay.
So I don't see that actually as a very serious issues. And but what is really sad is that in between 2023 and now, I have not actually seen any practical effort towards ensuring that we get the Electoral Commission to be much more responsible and responsive to the people of Nigeria. We must take away that protection that has been given them by law. Look, that is so dangerous. That presumption prevents them from establishing. They just simply give the results and then they are out. But have you not seen a situation where you would have to spend so much time, money, and energy in order to establish the malfeasance of a public authority? Another area they need to also consider is that election litigation should come before, and they should ensure that they give the election petitioners more time.
Ample time. Okay.
Yes, ample time. Let me ask a question. How do you reasonably expect that a man who contests presidential election comprising over 180,000 polling units has to be ready within 21 days to conduct to file election petition on the same footing as that of the governor, on the same footing as that of the House of Reps, same footing as that of the Senator, as that of the House of Assembly, when the responsibility of gathering what you need in order to present a petition As you go up the hierarchy, it becomes much more difficult and complex. We expect them to do that.
Okay.
Also, the time for presentation, not just presentation, times also for litigation. For litigation, they should take away the idea, for example, that people who have issues with INEC and have gone to court have to pay for CTCs. They should be given free of charge. Because if you look at, let me explain something to you. If you look at
in 1 minute, because we don't have time.
Okay, just one. If you look at that, the election results, most often you will notice that the ones that are actually down are not clear. Are we there?
Yes.
The best copies are the ones actually kept by the Electoral Commission, so you have to go and certify. The ones that are not actually clear. So what do you do under the circumstance? You take that body away. You should be given free of charge.
Okay.
Without cost.
Because of time, I want to quickly open up the phone lines. I'll just take a few responses or questions because our time is fast spent. We've been talking with Doueyi Fiderikumo. He is a lawyer and a social commentator. Of course, we're looking at electoral reforms, and this is not a conversation that can be dusted on one day, or in one day rather. It's a conversation that we have to continue to have. But during the conversation, I can take 2 quick calls before we wrap things up here. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello, Maryann. Good eviding.
30 seconds, please. Go.
Thank you very much to your listening. 2 things I'm taking away from what he said. One is the power of evidence that the complainer does not have. That is actually very, 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 very wrong. I also affected P2B at that point in time when he was running everywhere to get all those things. Mm-hmm. Now also, the litigation, what's it called? This 30 seconds is not really enough. I hope he's going to bring this man back again because we need to talk.
I'll bring him back. Thank you very much. I have to go. Hello.
Yeah, Maryann, how are you doing? Jonathan is my name.
Yes, Jonathan, go ahead.
Just like I said yesterday, it's very simple. The people need to take ownership of this democracy. And that's why you hear your guests calling people. And I feel very sad when they withdraw that bill. I supported that bill very well. It's really criminal part of it is what I don't support. But I think it's the situation whereby 5%, 10% will be determined to become president and become governor and now local government chairman. We need to start seeing problems. And we need to start figuring out something. We need to do something. Enjoy your day.
All right. Thank you very much for calling. Well, we want to thank you, Barrister, because our time is fast spent. We have to rush out of the studio. We want to thank you for coming on the show. We will bring you back. This is a conversation that we must have in phases and talk more about what the Constitution says about each and everything. And if we really are able to understand the process, download it, and then maybe we are able to address it with our representatives and our senators, maybe that will help us at least understand the process even more and be able to hold them to account. Thank you once again. Doueyi Fiderikumo is a lawyer. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
All right. Lagos, that's the show for today. We want to thank you all for being part of the conversation. Tomorrow we return with Hard Fact Awards. Follow Nigeria Info on all of his social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. Or you could also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, MIMIEYO. My name is Maryann Okon. Bye-bye, Lagos.
Hey, Lagos.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.